Hello, Gary Simon here of designcourse.com. Today we're going to begin creating a sort of sci-fi transit laser beam system, and it's something that I was just experimenting with. I decided, hey, I might as well. I recorded a few tutorials on how to do it, so this will span over the next day or two or maybe three, I'm not sure yet. So we're going to be using Blender, which is a 100% free 3D software. You can find that at blender.org, and we're also going to be using Photoshop afterwards, although it's not required. Alright, so check out designcourse.com if you haven't yet, and subscribe here on YouTube. Also, today will just be the initial modeling. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so first I want to preface this by saying the preview image that you saw, of the project we're about to cover before I started talking, that may not be exactly what I come up with. So because I'm just going to be doing that by memory, so it may differ a little bit. Hopefully it'll be better. All right. So if you've never used Blender before, this may not be the best tutorial to follow. I'm going to consider a beginner to intermediate type of tutorial. So it'll be a crash course if you've never used it. So just real quickly, I'll just to show you how to interact and use this basic interface over here. So to select objects, you right click them. To move around the viewport, you hold. Hey, real quick, I need to turn on my screencast keys just so you guys can see that really quick. Add-ons, screencast, turn this on, and start display. Okay, so now you can see whatever I'm clicking and typing or whatever letters I hit. All right, so basically to move around, you hold your middle or third mouse button. To zoom up, you use your mouse scroll wheel, and to pan, you hold shift and that middle or third mouse button. All right, so that's the only intro you're gonna get from me. All right, so basically everything's going to be based on around a very simple cylinder shape. So we need to delete the cube. Delete and enter. Shift A, and that gives us the add menu. Let's just add a bunch of different type of stuff. So we want to select a mesh. That's a 3D object, and here's just some initial starting points. So we want to select cylinder right here, and here's probably if you left clicked anywhere, that's where it's going to get added. So that's just something to note real quick. So I'm just going to center it up a little bit. All right, so right now it's facing the wrong direction. So we need to hit R for rotate, and then we only want to rotate it on the X axis. So we hit X, and then we type in 90 for 90 degrees, and then hit enter. Very simple. All right, and then what we want to do is just scroll up here a bit, and we're going to go to edit mode. Right now we're in object mode, and the way we switch that is right here. Just click on edit, or what I'm going to do from now on, just hit tab, and that will toggle between object and edit mode. All right, so in edit mode you have 3 different ways to interact with the object. So in edit mode, you can really deform the actual shape. Object mode, you can do things like scale it, rotate it, move it, etc. But edit mode gives you a finer level of detail in terms of actually transforming the geometry. So you have 3 different modes. By default, we have vertex mode. It lets you select by right-clicking individual vertices. And you can have edge mode as well, in which you can do the same thing. And then you have face mode. All right, so we want to get rid of the faces. We want to make this cylinder hollow, basically. So we want to get rid of this one. So you right click on it near the center and hit delete key, and then make sure you have faces select. And then the same thing over here. Right click, delete, and enter. All right, very simple. Now what we want to do is make it solid. By default, there's no sort of width to this thing. So we have to go over here to the modifiers, this little toolbar, or the wrench rather, add modify, and select solidify. Right away we can see it kind of changed, and if you zoom up you can see it's actually solid, so it has a thickness to it. And you can adjust the thickness right here, which we will be doing once we replicate this a few times. All right, so just somewhere around here is fine for now. All right, so now what we want to do is go back into object mode, and we want to also add another modifier before I forget real quick, and that's going to be the subdivision surface. All right, so it kind of makes it look funky, as you can see right off the bat. Down here, we want to have the subdivision set to 3 for view and render. All right, and so what that is, the view is this current view, and especially if we go to rendered right here, and then render is when we actually go to render and save an image. All right, so just to note that. All right, so let's go back to solid here, and let's see here. Yeah, so what we want to do now is duplicate this, or replicate it rather. So to do that, all we have to do is hit Shift D, and right now we can kind of just move it around. If you undo that, hit Shift D and then just enter, and that gets it right there in the same exact location. And so, you know, depending on how you want to do this part, it's entirely up to you. You could just, you'll see what I mean real quick. Let me just scale it down, hit S. Yeah, and I scaled it down roughly right around there. There's no right or wrong in terms of this approach that I'm doing. And we're going to move it forward on the y-axis. All right. Maybe right around there is good. And then do it another time. Shift D, enter. Move it forward. Hit S to scale. And you can do this however you wish. There's no right or wrong way. And then maybe one more time. Shift D, enter, scale it. Maybe take this one down a lot. And then to scale it along the y-axis, you hit S and Y. All right, that seems pretty good to me. I'm gonna take this, the first one that we replicated, and hit S and Y. Drag it back, SY. Well, actually, an easier way, what I want this to be visible right here, and also visible over here. What you can do is hit Tab, and select this right here. This will let you see kind of and be able to select faces behind, so you can see those, and go to vertex mode. Hit A and A to make sure everything is deselected. That toggles between select all and deselect all. Hit B as in brother and select all those and just move them back. All right. Okay, so this is the perspective that we're going to get in terms of the final render. So we just gotta kind of note that when we do this. So now what I want to do is come and add some detail to these things. So if we go select this first one right here by right-clicking it in object mode, hit Tab, we can play around with it a little bit by adding some loop cuts. So if I hit Control R, we can see this little purple line. If you left click, you can set it there, and then you can choose to position it wherever you want to. You can see how it affects the geometry towards this right portion, like the more of a crease it will be if you add it over there. So I just want to add mine maybe right around here, and I want to get rid of a couple of these faces. So if we go into face mode, face select mode, and we hit delete faces, you'll see how it distorts the geometry, and that's because of the subdivision surface we have on. Take this one, maybe delete that one as well. All right, that's good right there. And the way you make these things smoother is by adding loop cuts. So Control R, you could position that up right around there. Control R over here. Now, you could also hit Control R this way. Oops, 1 second. Control R right let's see here. Right there, and then right here to make it more solid, but you would probably notice a little bit of a line going along here. See, you can see just very faintly those lines, and I don't really want that. So I'm gonna Control Z twice and just leave mine for now just like that. I'm fine with it looking smooth. All right, and then let's go back here to solid view. All right, and you can also add some other detail to this pretty quickly by doing things like hitting Control R, maybe right around here, Control R again, put it real close to it, and then Control R again, left click and drag, oops, Control R, yeah, there we go, and then only select the middle. And so the way you do that is with Edge Select mode, hit Alt and right click. It'll select all those edges along the edge loop. And then what you could do is hit S for scale to scale it in just a little bit, and then hit Control R again to make that a real solid crease, just like that. So if I go to rendered, we'll see it now has a little bit of a fine detail there. All right, so let's go to solid again. And you know what? I kind of don't like this. This is like almost too, I guess you could say, curvy. So we can add some edge loops here. And I'm not too concerned about any issues it creates over there. So I'm just going to hit Control R along those edges. Ooh, let's see here. We have an issue right here. There we go. Notice that created an issue. Let me... There, yeah, something happened. Oops, that was on the other side. Yeah, that happened. Whatever that is, I don't like it. So you may notice issues like that. And then Control R here, Control R here. All right, so let's see what this looks like at the rendered view. Yeah, that's okay if these show up like these lines. I'm not too concerned about it. We're gonna have a material on it, so no big deal. Let's go back to solid, and I want to apply the solidify. So once we hit apply, we can no longer adjust, how solid it is. And if we hit tab and go back, we'll see there's a lot more geometry that's visible. But that will allow us to, if we hit Control R, right around there, make these points more solid. Like that. Let's go back into this mode. We want to make sure smooth shading is set on for all these. I'm not sure if they were. I can't remember if I specified that or not. All right, so make sure that's smooth. I think these are smooth already, but I'm just, yeah. All right, so let's go back here to solid. Take this one. Hit tab. I'm going to hit a Vertex Select mode, hit B. Just pull those out a little bit more. And we'll go to Face Select. Yeah, it's like this one. Actually, maybe I'll select the one just beneath it. Right there. Hit delete. Faces. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe one up here. Delete faces. And then do the same thing that we did before. So we'll add some edge loops. Control R. Control R. Control R there, Control R there. And we'll apply the solidify modifier. First we have to go into object mode, so we'll hit tab, apply, Control R on the edges, Control R there. All right, go back into object mode, right click this. We'll go to edit mode, Control R, right click that. Oops, Control R there, into tab and edit mode. Then what I want to do is make these ones a little bit more thicker. So it comes down. I mean, if we have a view like this, our view is going to be like this, so that's not really going to be much of importance, but that's no big deal. I might as well do it. All right. So that is our interesting looking whatever the hell it is. Almost looks like an engine. So now what I want to do is go ahead and take, you know what, we could probably add a little bit more detail. The more detail you add to these things, the more interesting it's going to look. So let me tab back out, or select this one here. Go to edit mode, Control R. You know what? I'm not going to do it there. I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to select this one and hit tab, Control R. Control R again. Control R again. We're going to do that inset sort of thing. Alt right click. Oops, alt right click like that. Hit scale. Control R. Control R. There. All right, I'd say that's pretty decent for now. Okay, so just remember, the more detail you add, the more interesting it's gonna look. All right, and by the way, I'm kind of talking not very loud because everybody's sleeping and it's like 10:30 here. So anyhow, yeah, that's good for this portion. So, oops, let me see something real quick. There we go. Add an edge loop over there. Probably important. All right, let's go to rendered. I'm going to change some things. I'm going to go by render settings, change the cycles render. And I'm going to change this to GPU compute. Makes it a lot faster. If you don't have the option, go to File, User Preferences, go to System, and see if you have CUDA available. If you do, select it, and then you'll see this GPU compute option. All right, so this back-end area, that's fine for now. I'm not trying to be too specific. I'm going to go sampling. Preview, we're going to leave at 10. Render, probably something more like 800 or so. The more samples, the higher quality, the less grainy it's going to be. But we're going to be working with a lot of geometry, so it'll take a long time to render each one of those. So I'm just moving around here. This is what that looks like. What the hell is that? Looks like something got messed up there. Ooh. What are you doing right there? I'm just selecting these and pushing them in because I don't know what happened. There. That's better. All right, so yeah, that'll work. This will work. So let's see here. All right, so what I want to do now, we'll just consider this part complete. I'm going to take this guy into center. Yeah, right there. And I'm going to hit Shift D and enter. Scale them down. Hit S and Y. I'm going to try like 50. hit S just to scale down the thickness. This is going to be like our beam or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to hit S and like 5 again. Or wait, SY and then 5. There we go. So it's like really long, and that's what I want. That'll work for now. Okay, and then I want to hit A to make sure nothing's selected, and then B, and then left click, and then hit Shift and right click to deselect this beam part. And that way we only have this right here selected. This is also, the light might have been selected as well, so if so, just zoom out, see if it is, shift and right click that twice. Now your geometry, these angles here, this axis, should be right in the center of this thing. So let's before we go ahead and replicate this, kind of forgot about a step. We want to UV unwrap it. So actually I'm just gonna hold off right here for this part for today, for this tutorial. Tomorrow we're gonna get into actually applying the material, replicating this. So this may be a 3-day tutorial, we'll see. But yeah, for now we are good to go for our actual shape of whatever the hell this thing is. So check out designcourse.com if you haven't yet. Subscribe here on YouTube and look out tomorrow for that next tutorial, or otherwise if you're watching it sometime down the line, it's already done. Just search the channel. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.